What's up, Sisu Circle, and welcome back to another episode of Who's the Baby, a podcast where me and my emotional support mug dive into everything inner child. Today we have a very special episode. I am joined by Randall Gilbert. We will be talking everything from healing from the inside. Randall is the dynamic speaker, a passionate father-child relationship coach, and the relentless father that uses his message to empower all individuals, especially fathers, to discover their purpose, pursue their goals, and live their dreams. Randall, it's really interesting to me. I come at everything from usually the mom's point of view, obviously, naturally, right? I love what you're doing in trying to get fathers more involved in recognizing how important that father-child relationship is. I think that's really spectacular. Can you tell me a little bit about what got you into this work and how you've come about this?
Well, thank you for having me. And this came about, and I didn't have anything to really do with it, meaning that I did not have my biological father in my life. The hero in my life growing up was my grandfather. And for 14 years, he was the man that led me, and I spent a lot of time with him. And at the age of 14, he passed away. And being the eldest of six, and then having my grandmother and my mom, all of a sudden I was thrust into taking the leadership role. And at the age of 14, it didn't take you very long to realize there were a lot of things that you had yet to learn. And I do believe that between the ages of 18 and 14, those are critical years for a young man to start to develop, to understand his role as becoming an adult. I did not have that. But when you're thrust into it, you start to realize the value, the value of that relationship that I had with my grandfather. You kind of took it for granted. All of a sudden he's gone. And after graduating high school, I made a decision to join the military because between 14 and 18, you have a little job here, you go to school, you have a little part-time, and you're moving around and about, and you realize that, okay, now I really need to decide on what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. So I chose the military, which was the best thing that happened for me. Why? Because I tell fathers, if you want to turn the relationship around with your children, the very first thing that you must do is make the decision. And that is what the military introduced me to. I didn't learn to appreciate it until years later that I made a decision. For 8 years I served. Leave the military. I started my transportation company, all because I made a decision I was going to do it. And I made a promise to my children after leaving the military. I made a promise to my children before they were ever born that they would never know what it felt like to have an absentee father. That was something that I did not want them to experience. I needed to put myself in the company of wise men who would walk with me and encourage me. And that is exactly what happened. And all of that came about, relentless fathers, hello, out there, after making the decision. And once I made the decision, I had to take the action. And it was very, very difficult from the beginning because we think we know what to do. And the first thing that I was introduced to was forgiveness. I had to learn how to forgive. I had to forgive a father that did not want to be in my life so that I could be released from the weight of carrying that around with me. Now I can focus on being this father. So it really came about that I was thrust into a position of taking care of my little sisters and brothers and looking out for my mom and my grandmother and accepting the challenge that, man, if I'm going to be a father, I didn't really have that example of what it was like to have one. So it came down to just making the decision that I was going to be a great father, didn't know how I was going to do it. And this is what I tell fathers. we've got to first make the decision. When you make the decision, the lanes open up.
That's great. And how long ago was that when this work came to you?
This Relentless Fathers Army started about 4 years ago. Somebody challenged me to become a coach. I accepted the challenge. I went to the Rich Coaches Academy, which is an ICF affiliated school, and now it's time for me to choose my niche. Who do I want to coach? We started to go down the list, and they got to parenting. That's it. But can I focus on the fathers? That's how this really truly began for me. And since I was in the Army, I knew then that the fathers have to show up as a force. And I'm in my church listening to a sermon, and the pastor looked right at me and he said, if you're going to do something significant, you have to be, and then hesitated, relentless. I said, that's it. Relentless Fathers Army. So that's how all that came about, man.
What you said about you being forced into that at a young age, from 14 to 18, having to learn a lot within that time, and how important that time is for children. What do you think were the biggest lessons that you took away from that time? I mean, obviously you kind of stepped into the fatherhood role for your siblings, but what did you learn about yourself during that time? I'm really curious about that.
Well, the thing that I truly come to appreciate for those individuals that were fortunate enough to have had a father in their life at the time, because you are running carefree. You are being a child. This is what we are supposed to do. Teach our children, but let them be that child that's in them. But when the roles are reversed, you learn to understand, to appreciate what your granddaddy meant to you, what my grandfather meant to me. Now all of a sudden I've got to make sure that the doors are locked in the evening. Yep. Got to make sure that the brothers and sisters have everything that they need, because my mom worked and mother also. You learn that, wow, man, if I'm going to be effective at doing this, then somewhere along the way, someone is going to have to lead me. Someone is going to have to teach me. So I'm holding on with members of the community there to walk with me, the men in the community, to keep me encouraged. But it's not like having that individual that I can plug into immediately, that I can rush home to every day to say what kind of day I've had. I did not want my children to understand what that felt like, not having that security blanket. It was, you could say, I grew up rather quickly. One of my sisters always told me, she said, Randall, you were always grown because you didn't do anything but hang out with granddaddy and his friends. That's where my appreciation comes from, sitting down talking to the elders. That's really, it wasn't a big transition for me, that when I did run into wise counsel, I listened, because I did that when my grandfather was alive, and these men led me. So I learned that if you're going to be successful as a father, I hope that you had an example of that. Yeah. If you did not have an example of that, you have to take the responsibility to learn how to do it, because our children let us not make our children feel as though they are a burden. They are gifts. And it's so amazing. A lot of people say, I don't have the money, I don't know how to do. But when you make the effort, it's amazing. The things that you ask the good Lord to do for you, not only will he do that, he will do the other things that you didn't even ask him to. Once you make the decision that this is what you're going to do, you don't know how you're going to do it, but the decision is made, you start to take action. And what I started to do after I went into the military, to look for the individuals who carried themselves a certain way, almost like my grandfather did. Mm-hmm. These were soldiers who had families. These were soldiers who talked about their families. These were soldiers who shared their story. And these are the gentlemen that made themselves available for anyone who would ask the question, how do I become this father? How do I become this responsible individual? So they would they took me under their wing and they walked with me. They talked with me. And again, that began the step up into becoming a relentless father, because I knew that I could not wait until I'm in the delivery room and decide I'm going to be a father.
Right.
No, I'm too late. I need to learn how to do this thing before I ever get there. Now, unfortunately, there are those children that want their fathers in their life. I'm here to tell fathers, I don't care how it may have started with you. If you're doing a great job, the Relentless Fathers Army needs you. If you are struggling, trying to be this father, the Relentless Fathers Army want to help you. And if you have been that absentee father, and now you have had a change of heart, and now you want to get back into your lives, I usually tell the fathers, bring your pickaxe, your shovel, and helmet, because we got work to do. We can turn it around. We can turn it around. That's the way that I like to lead the fathers, and to give them hope, give them words of encouragement. But I remember, again, it took men to walk with me. So that's what I have to do with the men that I talk to or I'm introduced to.
It takes that responsibility. It takes the decision making and then action steps. And you don't have to have it all figured out. I love that you kind of pose it that way. And it's just one day at a time, but you have to be committed to learn and to want to do better. That's worth more, especially to the child relationship, than getting it right all the time or having it all figured out. I mean, I will always tell my daughter, I am learning with you. This is my first time being a mom with you. We're in this together. My relationship is not perfect, but if I mess up or if something happens, I'm learning, and I will apologize if I need to, and we're going to figure this out together because we're on the same team. So today's conversation is all around healing from the inside. From your perspective, what are some of the challenges that you see with the fathers that come to work with you? I know that you mentioned a few in terms of the type of relationships they may or may not already have with their children.
Right.
But what are some like major things that you see that men are needing or lacking in order to work with you?
Fathers are struggling, I find out, is from a lack of fathers not being there, not being told that they had value, not having an individual that, again, as I said too, that they could run to and just share what was on their hearts. And most of them, when they start to talk about the generational cycles, well, his father was not there for him. And if you go a little bit deeper, his father was not there for his father. It is a generational cycle, but we have to talk about forgiveness. And people don't want to hear what you have to say until you have a story to tell. I have to tell fathers about my experience. I have to tell fathers about meeting a gentleman who told me to give me that window and you take this mirror and look in it. And he said, who do you see? Asked me that. I said, I see myself. Don't you ever mention anyone's name in this circle ever again. We are going to work on the man in the mirror. Therefore, I was being spoken to as though I had a father. And this was the very first time I sat in a circle of men. After I leave the military, I'm doing my trucking and running my company. I realized that I had so much to learn. But until I forgave and understood that now you got nobody to look at but yourself. Once I started to do that, after making the decision that this is what I'm going to do, because I can't get rid of the memory of what it was like not having that. I wouldn't say that motivated me, but it was definitely a cause of wanting to be that impactful, loving, kind, inspiring father. That was all that it took. Again, I love that word, decision. And men started to pour into me, not on me. That's why we call this a no judgmental zone. the Relentless Father's Army, because we all got a story to tell. And when you start to tell your story, men begin to weep, because some not only didn't have a father in their life, but some may have been abused by a relative in their life. And you let them have that moment, and you talk to them, and you don't go to them and say, okay, let's forgive that. No, we're trying to build that relationship. We want them to open up. But the only thing we ask the Father is to be committed. Please be committed. Stay connected. If there's something going on, challenges, please call right into the community, and we can be on it promptly. These are some of the things that we practice in this Relentless Fathers community to make the fathers feel, wow, man, this is truly a safe place.
Do you think that when they first arrived, is it sort of an easy thing to just let their guard down, or does it take work, or like do men struggle with that?
Men, most fathers have been told, if you're struggling, ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
You get through it, or you're a man. Suck it up.
That's what I mean. The emotional cognition or the emotional intelligence, is that a challenge to break through, or do you think it's getting better?
Yeah, because they've never been told it's okay. It's okay to share what you're dealing with on the inside. But what opens that up, we start out our meetings sharing. And for those that have been with the group a while, they open up and began it, just like when I first was entered into a circle, and I'm hearing all of these men share some very dark things. I'm looking at the facial expressions on the guys that have been sitting in this circle. No facial expression. We're not judging you. We realize everybody has a story. And so when you do that, some men do it rather quickly, come in and say, well, I just come to see, I didn't come to say anything. But by the end of the evening, guess what? Wow, I said I wasn't going to say anything, but can I share this? We have to roll out the carpet where they feel comfortable, that they feel safe. We squash all of these uncalled for rumors that they've been told that a man cannot share his feelings. A man cannot even weep. Yes, you can here. And when they do that, oh my goodness, when they do that, you can see now that I'm ready to make this change.
Yeah.
There's a transformation that you're going to have to go through. Don't rush it. But we do ask that you make a commitment to stay, because eventually you're going to be helping someone else who comes into the community.
And I love that it's a communal setting and that everyone has their place and place to share. I think that's really helpful, especially for men who are new to this work, or who just want to try it out, right? And just sit there and just see if it's for them. So I think it's really approachable. I love that you have that space available for them. I am curious about, once you get all of the emotional baggage out of the way, is there anything that you talk about in terms of parenting boys, or how to raise men, or like, is that a part of the community as well?
You'd be surprised at how many men that I've spoken with, they're frustrated. They're very, very frustrated, all because they can't get the children to respond the way they want them to. And
Tell
what
me about
we
it.
have to,
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
what we do is to really work on our emotions. Let's get our emotions regulated, because our children, if you're in a relationship with the mom and it's rocky, or if you're co-parenting outside of the home, it is not the child's responsibility to carry the burden of mom and dad not being able to get along.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids do. So we deal with regulating the emotions, and we kind of paint a picture that water hits upon a stone, and it does it consistently, eventually it'll change the formation of the stone. And I said, this is where you have to also understand about the Bible verse where they talk about seed, time, and harvest. And that's how most people talk about seed, time, and harvest. But when we talk about it, we say seed, time, and harvest. It's going to take time. The thing that I remember about my grandfather, he had a farm. I never saw him plant seeds on Monday and go back out on Tuesday to dig up to see what it sprouted. There is a process to everything that we do. So let's get these emotions in check, because what you're going to have to understand, that if the wife is dealing from a position of hurt, if they're dealing from a position of hurt, then guess what? You are responsible. Now you want to be this impactful, loving, kind, inspiring father. You are responsible for showing up with your emotions in the right position. And we used to use this little example, say, if both people are doing this, how can we talk? But if the father gets himself together, eventually, in that time, during that time, the relationship will come together. But if we don't have coaching, if we don't have encouragement coming from men who've been there, it's definitely hard to do it by yourself.
Definitely. 100%. Honestly, regulating your emotions is probably one of the biggest self-healing, things out there. The more you know yourself, of course you can't change anyone else, or you can't change the way anyone else reacts to you, but if you can help the way that you respond to those reactions, that is chef's kiss.
That's right. We talk about being consistent. We're talking about learning to go from wanting to just being a servant. We pray, but we tell fathers that let God be the one to give you your increase or your reward. Because if you're looking for applause from the people around you, that may work for a few, but after a while, the applause will quit.
Yeah.
But the good Lord will never quit on your good serving. So let's get that relationship in line. We're doing everything that we do it unto the Lord. Therefore, if I don't hear it from somebody that I would love to hear it from, my vision tells me if I stay the course in due season, I shall get my
Right. Everything from within. Everything. The outward seeking validation, that's, like you said, that's going to last a few minutes, but everything, all the work that you do, and anytime you internalize or do anything on yourself, that's really where the work and the healing, I think, comes into play for sure.
Exactly. And when that light comes on, now they've placed themselves in a position to receive and wanting to go back and start to practice. In the community, we have words of affirmation for the fathers. I am a good father. I lead with love and patience. I am a safe place for my children. And then a call to action. We also have that in the community. Did you hug your child today? Did you work with them doing their homework? If they're an adult child, have you sent them a text message or just picked up the phone and given them a call to say, I'm proud of you? These are the things that we initiate gradually, and it starts to take hold, even though we tell them if the situation has been rocky for a while, it didn't happen overnight. Be consistent, be persistent, be connected. And if you have issues when we are not face to face, go to the community, because I monitor my community all the time. If somebody has a need, we put it in. What do we do in the community? We also have a shout out section. If your child is doing something great, put it in the community so that we can applaud them and applaud you for doing a great job. This community has been forged together with the thought of supporting the father 100%.
It is such an interesting perspective. From our point of view, there's been more of a perception in the recent years, this learned helplessness from dads. I'm sure you've heard the term married single mother. How can we encourage fathers to get involved, or how can we encourage them to be more a part of the day-to-day minutia of tasks?
Well, the fathers have to see that their role is very, very important. I was given a book many years ago, and I don't get any endorsement fees or anything for doing this, but the name of the book was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, halfway through the first chapter. And this is where that really helped me, because I'm running my transportation business. I'm going 3 or 4 days a week. Mm-hmm. I get home and I take care of the yard and everything that has to be done on the outside of the home. Well, I read this book, and it got to a place where it says, let's talk about yesterday's. She would prepare the food. She would clean the house. She was a housewife. And when the husband would get home after 8, 10, 12-hour day, he goes to his favorite chair, takes his shoes off, and he waits for the word dinner time. Yesterday's, today's lady, today's woman. She gets up in the morning. She gets herself prepared. She gets the children prepared. She drops one off at the daycare. She drops the other one off at high school. Then she gets to the job. She's the CEO. She is the owner of the company. She has all of these different positions at the workplace. And at the end of the day, she swings by, pick up the kid from high school and daycare, and get home and put the key into the door. I stopped reading. And the thing that I got from that was that when I get home, I do the things on the outside. Now I feel as though I can kick my heels up. My wife never kicked her heels up because she had some energetic young guys there that she had to oversee and to take care of while I was away. So we try to get fathers to understand that, look, if you got a lady, a wife that's helping to support the family in any kind of way, whether it's in the home or outside of the home, you need to show up just as effectively on the outside as you do, on the inside as you do on the outside. We as men truly don't get, and unfortunately, until we are in an environment where men bring this up and we talk about your role, they never know. They keep it, well, I work, I bring in the money, I keep a roof. That was caveman talk, okay? Let's take caveman talk. If our children are going to be responsible, young men and women one day, if we are going to help them navigate this maze called life, we don't have a part-time job here. This is a journey. Become involved with what the children are doing. Watch quietly and calmly what your lovely wife is doing, and then begin to take some of those duties away from her. Observe, and start to do. And what you're going to find now, you're going to have a deeper appreciation coming from the wife, and you're going to understand that, man, this serving thing isn't that bad.
Definitely. As you were saying, that might have been yesterday's woman, but today it's a totally different ballgame. And I think the more that we can share that load, it's more about a partnership and more about a team effort. And the more that we can use that language to say, this isn't like helping mom. No, these are our duties as well. The household, right, needs to run regardless of who is manning the ship. It all needs to get done somehow. I love that you're bringing that perspective into the father's view and helping them have that awareness. I think that's really ticks a lot of boxes for me personally, but just in terms of like being a woman and kind of having that teammate or having that person on board with us to say, yeah, it doesn't matter whose role it is. It just needs to get done. How do we figure out how to do this together, right? Because that is the end goal.
We're here to build a complete father, not one that goes in I mean, most of them are there anyway, go in half, half.
Yeah.
Very, very shady in the way that they do things. No, we're trying to build a complete father, but it takes work. It takes work and it takes effort, and we just have to learn how to serve. My wife, I kid the fathers when I go out. My wife is not a sprinter, but if you want to see her high step it, tell her to get out of the kitchen and she will make a beeline out because she knows that I enjoy doing this. I don't mind preparing meals for the family, doing things in the house for her and for the family because it is our home. It's our home. I tell them, just show up. You might have had a difficult time at your workplace. You need to get your mindset together between the time you get into that car, make that drive home, and make it and get out. You need to have a different mindset. If you got to call up a friend, if you got to call me to lay into me on some of the things that you dealt with during the day, that's okay. You are setting up a very clean opportunity to go and welcome yourself to the family. I recall when I started to learn how to do this thing, I would enter the door. I am home, and I don't care where those boys were. You could hear the feet start hitting steps coming down, and learning how to listen. Learning how to listen to your children. This is one of the things that we talk about. Don't go and be short with them. Don't go and try to fix it right away. Engage them. Listen to them. What you're doing, you're building a more solid foundation for them to stand on. Because there's nothing more rewarding, even though I didn't have it for a little while with my grandfather, I did, to be able to come and have somebody that I could just talk to. Someone that I could just talk to. So we need to make ourselves available, and then to show our children that they matter, repeat back to them what they said to you. That will bring them close. Oh, Dad, I do matter, right? Oh, wow, you're listening to me. And many a times, my response is always with the question, how did that make you feel? Now they're talking. Now they are talking. And the next thing you know, you have questioned them right into their own solution. Thanks, Dad. Well, I didn't do anything but ask a question. That's all I did. So these are the techniques, the strategies that we give fathers. Try this. And then come back with a report and let us know what took place. Yeah. And they come back and they're, man, you just do not know. That helped me so. I had a rough day. I called up a buddy of mine, and he allowed me for about 10 minutes just to pour into him. And then I get home. Now I can focus on their needs. So these are just strategies that we teach fathers step by step, because every week or when we do meet, they come back with a smile on their face. I tried it and it worked. I tried. Okay, what's next? What can you give me? And look, we're walking this. This is a slow walk. We don't want to give you too much. Just perfect what you have, what you're working on right now. And sometimes they come back with ideas. I'm going to do this next. Wow, that's great. You're in the game now. You can see the vision that you painted, and you should be excited, not to worry about how long it's going to take me to get there, but you have to hold on to that vision and knowing that you're going to have that family that you desire to have.
Beautiful. I love that you can watch the transformation live with them. That's probably the best feeling for you as a coach. Like for me, I love being face to face with my clients and like watching them, even the wheels turning, right? Even just something is in there and you're working on something really good right now. It's honestly, that's my favorite part of the whole thing. But I'm sure even from other fathers, that's got to be such an amazing experience in the community just to have that.
Yes, I remember coaching a pastor once, and we were going through it, and I asked him a question. about 30 minutes in, and he just held this facial expression, and his response said, Randall, I know where you're going. I got it. I know where. And like you said, when that light comes on,
Yeah.
they want more.
Yeah.
It makes the job a lot easier when you know you're doing the right thing.
I genuinely feel that is a point of healing. Having that communal space and watching other people's transformation and watching how even through your story is helping someone else. I think that's beautiful. I think that's what we collectively need to do more of, to be honest with you. I just love how you've built this safe community for men. I think that's needed in our current culture and climate, and to give them true feedback, because if maybe they're not doing the right thing, well, somebody's got to tell you. Somebody's got to let you know in a safe way, but let's figure it out. Let's work on it.
And when you do this, basically what we're doing in this community, we're building leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Not only does that affect your home, it affects your community. It affects the way that you show up at your workplace. Yes. I have been asked by my HR department, would you lead a leadership training for us? And I said, just tell me when and where, because how do I show up at my workplace? I control the thermostat, and I work with about 40 guys. And I intentionally go in and I fist pump every individual. Some I ask, how you doing? Then sometimes I ask, okay, tell me how you're really doing. We needed that.
Yeah.
You are a leader. That's what we're building, leaders, so that when we know that we are leaders, we can pour into these beautiful gifts that we call children. In order for me to be a father, I have to look at myself in that way and not rely on other people to tell me that. I need to know that for myself. This is what fathers do. Yep. We can have our children so fired up because of the things that we say, the time that we spend. We don't ignore them. We make them understand that you matter. Now let's talk. Let's talk. We don't have to have the doctorate degrees. All you need is to have a heart.
Yes.
To love your children. And therefore, you become hungry to learn more on how to be that impactful, loving, kind, inspiring father.
Not only are you changing the trajectory of the father, right? In turn, then, as you mentioned, so many other aspects of their lives are changing, but you are building the great model or the example for the next generation of children, and specifically boys, right? Raising them up to be the kind of man who is the example, and so on and so forth. So it really is, I love that sort of like cycle breaker. The generational trauma is being broken. In reality, there are so many benefits of father involvement. It's like number one, emotional and mental growth. Kids who have fathers included exhibit greater confidence, higher self-esteem, better emotional regulation. We touched on that. Step one is emotional regulation. Cognitive and physical abilities as fathers are typically characterized as being the more stimulating physical play, right? It definitely promotes problem solving characteristics, right, and independence, even academics. Positive behavioral outcomes reduced to linked delinquency, especially in boys, and less risk-seeking behavior in girls, which is phenomenal. And just overall long-term success. Your kids are more likely to achieve higher education, secure stable employment, and lower rates of depression and adult incarceration, which is incredible. I mean, those are just like a few little stats of how important having a father or a father-like figure in your life is.
That's amazing. You got into those categories, and we talk about numbers too with the fathers, and that is so very, very important that they need to know that there is data that has been collected to show your value, to show how important your effectiveness in your children's lives can be. For me, and Joy, even now, I tell my sons, I'm proud of you. And one thing in the community that I challenge the fathers to do, why don't you interview your child? Interview your child. I got questions here, and I interviewed my youngest one. I had this look on my face like, are you talking about me? You think that you think they don't listen, but oh my goodness. He said, Dad, you always One of the things that my son talked to me about, business. They said, you have always had a business. I went to school. I got a pretty nice gig here, but I'm thinking I got a business bug in me. We can definitely enlighten our children on it. And the thing that we have to squash for a lot of men, especially in the black community. I tell fathers, I'm having such a hard time. I'm always being held back. I can't do this. And we let them air that out, get it out your system. And then we tell them, let's change the way we look at things. When you change the way you look at things, the things around you will change. Yeah. When you start to collect the attitude or adopt the attitude that, okay, if it's a struggle, thank you. If you go to the weight room looking more comfortable than you did leaving, if you look more comfortable leaving than you did going in, you probably didn't work yourself. You probably didn't struggle. The only way you get stronger is in your struggle. Yeah. To lift more weight. If you're going to be a father, if you're going to be a businessman, if you're going to be a leader, then again, we're telling you it's not where you come from, it's what you decide to, it's who you decide to become. But you gotta be around the individuals that will pour into you and not on you, that will challenge you, that tell you you have everything in you. Stop looking, I think you mentioned this earlier, stop looking on the outside and look for the inside. You're 3 feet from goal and you don't even know it. But you got to tear away the layers. You got to get away from the disappointment. You got to get away from the setbacks. You got to start to let go of all the things, the people that did you wrong, and just focus on you becoming that father that these beautiful gifts that we've been blessed with called children need you to be. And I'm telling you, when you make them the priority, everything just lines up. The relationship between you and mom, everywhere you go, your attitude just demonstrates power. It reveals an individual who knows where you're going, and you carry yourself like you are looking to help or to serve somebody. That's what leaders do. Yeah. That's how we show up every single day, regardless of whatever the weather.
Masking is a very prominent buzzword these days, but obviously relevant. How do men mask in this day and age, and how did they recognize it within themselves, and what can they do about it?
When we say masking, to me it implies that if I walk past you and you had a smile on your face, she's already got it going on. She doesn't need any words of encouragement like "How are you?" and all of that. And you used to search for the people who looked like they were dragging. And those were the ones that you were attracted to say hello. But then all of a sudden, I started speaking to the ones that had the smiles on their face. And whoa, all of a sudden you understood that this was this mask.
Yeah.
They said, man, you just do not know what I'm going through. So, and even a pastor once told me, he said, don't you know Denzel Washington has to take time off from acting? You can't act all the time. You can't wear this mask. Eventually, it's going to become so heavy on you that it's going to cause you health issues. Yeah. You're going to be so depressed. What we do is to tell fathers in this environment, take the mask off. Take it off. Whatever you have dealt with, I promise you, you're going to hear somebody else in here who had to deal with the same ordeal. Mm-hmm. But look at it, they're smiling now because they realize that if I am always faking it, I miss out on so many opportunities to get what I truly need. And I tell fathers, I said, always look at those individuals that show up at the job smiling all the time. Always got a kind word for you. These are the gentlemen that are sending a signal out to say, if you need help, I'm here. I want to help you. I want to talk to you. So I want to be the one controlling the thermostat. Take off the mask and help them.
Yeah.
Show leadership. This is how we deal with that unmasking. Be yourself. Let it all hang out, because I promise you, when you hear some of the stories that have gone on in here, you're going to smile to know that, wow, this island by myself? Yeah, I'm not here by myself. This is what we convey to the fathers when they're dealing with this mask issue. The only way we're going to heal, we got to lay it all out. Unpack the suitcase that you've been carrying around for years, and you're trying to take it back and forth, hoping that others will adjust to what you have in there. No, 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 no. Get rid of it. And you start making the adjustments so that you can be the father that these beautiful children need you to be.
One of my favorite things to say is like, the only way through is through. And it might suck most of the time, but once you look back and you realize, wow, I did all that, I went through all that, then you can look at it from a new lens, and it's like, wow, such a different perspective. So empowering after the fact, but yes, it's going to suck going through it.
That's right. Again, if we're going to grow, there is no gain without a little bit of pain.
You have created the Relentless Father's 4 legacy pillars. Can you share more about that and about your community and how people can find you?
Well, it's talking about the responsibility that we have as fathers. We are the solid foundation in which the family stands on. We are the wall of protection that protects them from the villains. We are the lighthouse that is always shining a light down the path for them to follow. When we've done the first 3, then we are pillar number 4, that where we are the runway, that where we can teach our children how to take off and soar. Now, keep the runway open, because I'm here to tell you, every now and then they like to come back in for a refueling. Yeah. So these are the 4 legacy pillars of a relentless father. I do have an offer out there. I do have an ebook that talks about that relentless fathers, how we are to conduct ourselves. I've got a new book coming out, and the title of it is Restoration to Relentless, to walk fathers through becoming that relentless fathers. First, we tell you who you are, whether you feel like it or believe it or not, and then we walk you through that transformational process. Okay. If you're going to look for me, I have everything in my link tree. It's linktr.ee/Relentless Fathers Army. There you will find access to membership of the school community. You will find the offer to purchase the reading material there. You will find the promo video. You will find my YouTube. You will find my Facebook. And every morning I go live on Facebook every morning to do my posting, to do my live daily talks, go into the community and post admiration, to answer the questions that fathers have. I post my videos into 25 different father groups on Facebook. And I'm trying to create more, just trying to get in front of audiences. And again, we have a promo video. If you're looking for a speaker, someone who speaks on fathers, please contact me. And let's make it happen.
Love it. Well, I thank you so much for all of the information. Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I really appreciate what you're doing and making parenting a priority. I think a lot of people fall into parenting. Oh, well, there's no handbook, there's no rules. It's just, and it's like, well, that's true, but you have to make the rule book. And the best way to do that is through yourself. Having the awareness of who am I, who do I want to be, and then how do I want to show up for my children.
Well, I think you said it earlier that a lot of us are only acting out what we saw as young men. Yeah. And for those that did not know about this fathering thing, never had an example of a father, then yes, there had to be some decisions made, because I didn't want my children to go through this. Right. I had to start making adjustments. I made a promise to them before they were ever born. They will not know what it felt like to have or to have had an absentee father. I am very proactive. The men that are in this, they are very proactive with their children because they realize that we carry much valuable. We understand the why. Look, you guys have been in the gap all the time.
Yeah.
We are trying to get fathers to understand that we have a great opportunity. Don't worry about what's happening with the government. Don't worry about what's going on at your job. A lot of times we get distracted by all of these different things that are going on, and we place our worry in areas that we just need to pray and say, Lord, you giving me this family, show me how to do this, and all the other things out here that's surrounding me, you have it.
Right. Right.
You have it.
Take that off my plate. I can only control what I can control.
When you get freed up from that, it is such an enjoyable ride because I remember one Sunday I walked through the supermarket and there was this gentleman and his two children, and all I could hear, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And I walked over to him and I said, Sir, the song that your children are singing is the most precious song that any father can hear. I hope you really appreciate what you hear because the way they sound, they appreciate who you've been.
Yeah. Oh.
We got to be able to uplift those around us, but I need to take the good news to the street.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Yes. And thank you. And thank you so much for hanging with me today and being here. I just want to thank you again for being my guest. And this has been awesome.